This is the big daddy of all chore coats, at least in my world, and I feel like 99% of people drool over one of these chore coats. Shockingly expensive online, but I found one on eBay for a good deal. It does live up to the hype.
There's a little cut right here on the inside of the jacket on that panel.
Ooh, I love that. I love that detail. This is some of the softest denim I've ever felt. All of the pockets are lined with an even softer flannel. There is just so many details like this that show a mastery of fit and sizing. My personal experience with the brand, I opened the box and I was like, nah, I don't see the big deal. And then I put the chore coat on and I was like, I am the hottest man. But of course we have a problem. Life is full of problems, my boy. Get used to it. And it's not that I'm wearing double denim. The problem is in this sack. The problem is always in this sack if you watch these videos. This is the newest legend in the chore coat world. People go absolutely feral for these bad boys. They sell out in like 2 minutes, 800 of them. There's a New York Times article about them. You don't own just one thing from this brand. You own like 3 or 4. I own 3 things from this brand. But this is where the problem arises. There's a great history of chore coats, but there is no official historical chore coat. In fact, these are the most, no offense to any of these brands, these are the most basic, not boring. I'm trying not to, chore coats got standardized and more generic during the Industrial Revolution because you wanted to buy 80 of them instead of having one made specifically for you. So if we're trying to get one now that is more specifically for you, there's certain things we need to pay attention to, like cuffs, like pocket style, like length, like thickness, that when you put everything together, you could see what brands are referencing historically. For example, these cuffs require an extra step when being made versus something like these cuffs. And we can get into the nerdy historical reason about manufacturing time and trying to get stuff out in different professions and stuff like that, and it gets a lot more fun. Exhibit A, Carhartt chore coat. And if you're saying, Michael, technically that's actually a barn coat, just stop it. You're screwing me up. You win this round, whatever. What we need to focus on, triple stitched seams. Normally, every stress point would be riveted out the butt. It uses a duck canvas instead of the bright blue moleskin that the French kind of perfected. Why? Personally, I think it's because of the climate in Brittany, France, but we'll get into that. And then of course, we have the undisputed king of chore jackets, the French powerhouse, the chore jacket, the creator. Holly, that's a Tyler Creator reference. Can you put the Yonkers beat here? The undisputed king of chore coats. What LL Bean is to duck boots. What Filson is to the cruiser. And I do have to say, after putting this coat on, yes, I can totally see why they are the undisputed king. This is not denim or canvas. It's furry, fuzzy moleskin. A French staple. A European staple, really. Okay, so the goal for this video is to take a chore coat, blow it up, split it up into itty bitty pieces, see what pieces you like, what you don't, what I like, what I don't, what we want to throw out, and then we'll be doing that by going over 6 to 7 chore coats that we have today. I actually can't remember if I brought 6 or 7, because there's one really weird one that I don't, technically it is a chore coat, but still. Yeah, that's that. How are you guys? How's it going? So, as I was saying before, well, first off, happy spring. 4 days till spring. Look at, I'm in a t-shirt and a chore coat. What a lovely day. First on the list is one of my favorite jackets from the list, Paynter. Paynter. Technically, LC King. Paynter is the brand. LC King is the manufacturer. If you were on Reddit in like 2013 to 2017 or something like that, while Portlandia was airing, which is embroidered on the back of this collar, you knew about Paynter. Paynter was the hottest brand. Everybody wanted a Paynter. It was the chore jacket, awesome. Including me. I was looking at it like, wow, I need that jacket more than anything in my life. I wish they made it skinnier. Paynter, we'll get into that in a second. This is a 12-ounce duck canvas from Mount Vernon. Very, very tightly woven, as you can see. Just kind of drips right off. Same canvas that Carhartt uses from the same place for the Made in America stuff, so it's gonna age the same, it's gonna look beautiful. Really big fan of it. It does get wet, water still gets in, but it's very, very tightly woven, tough stuff. This jacket is cut much more like a rider jacket, like a trucker type 2, just a shorter jacket. I think, based off of LC King's website, this, I'm assuming, was a promotional thing for Portlandia, maybe for the cast or something, because the sewing is done really, really simply. It's quick, there's no top stitching, no extra details. What's a bummer though, is that the Paynter brand, I believe, got sold by LC King, and LC King still made similar jackets, but now, recently, it looks like they may have closed up shop. They could be moving warehouses or something like that. I'm not sure, but that's the only bummer. That being said, seriously, if you know someone at LC King or Paynter, please connect them with me because I would love to do something together. I think that would be a lot of fun. This is like, there was Carhartt, there was Levi's, and then there was Paynter and LC King. It's that foundational to American workwear, so I think it's so cool. Buck Mason is a cool brand, everybody knows that, but for some reason, the women love this chore coat in particular. I should note that I got these for free from Buck Mason. They did not pay me to say that or pay me at all. They do so much advertising, I figured people would want to know how Buck Mason is. Women, all over. Taylor at the grocery store yesterday, so I just tossed this coat on. I walked outside and like 4 seconds later, some woman was like, that's a really nice coat. And I was like, thanks. And then I got to the grocery store and Taylor was talking to her friends and they're both like, that's a really nice coat. This is the Buck Mason version of the ever-famous P-41. If you fought in World War II, you probably recognize this jacket because this is what the Americans wore as uniform, albeit buttoned and with a big belt, but that is the P-41. So that's what they're referencing here. The BM boys call this a lightweight fabric, and it makes me think like, Buck Mason, do you know what other brands consider to be a lightweight fabric? This is how they all wear it on the website, so I better do that too. Not that this is a heavyweight fabric by any means. I'd probably say midweight, but it's woven so densely that it has some nice structure. It stands on its own, and apparently I look very handsome in it, which is always nice to hear. Also, small detail that I like that just shows, you know, going the extra mile on your garments is there's some extra fabric inside of the jacket on stress points, so that way, you know, if you're really pulling on your pocket, you don't have to worry, since this fabric is lighter weight, you don't have to worry about ripping it. And then this is a weird coat. It's still Buck Mason. This is their felted short coat, but I got it in the mail and I was like, what is this? I don't mean weird in a bad way, I just mean unique. This is like if a sports coat, a chore coat, and a cardigan all got together and had one baby. The first really unique thing about it is the yarn. So obviously you can ply yarn, which is you're kind of, you know, putting multiple strands together. This is a boucle yarn. So instead of it just being 3 uniform strands, you have one strand of yarn, a strong like center core one, then you loop one around it all crazy and nuts, and then you put one more around it that kind of secures that crazy and nut thing to the yarn, and what you get is just this wet and wild, super textured, puffy, lofty yarn. The interesting crazy part though is this is a knit fabric, not a woven, so a sweater, not jeans. And it has a ton of stretch, but Buck Mason double felts it, and felting locks wool together because of all the little barbs on wool. So it's still stretchy, but if you pull it, you can hear all of the little barbs kind of splitting apart. It's still not a woven, so it's a lot more stretchier, but felting it strengthens it up, tightens everything, so it's hybrid isn't the right word, but it tightens it up more to be a really, really tight knit. This, to me, screams that Buck Mason is a California brand. California brands, usually I find like everything they make is a little lighter weight than what I would wear in New England. This is a perfect example of them switching the fabric type. So they're boiling a knit, so it's more breathable, it's a little easier to wear in different weather. It's spring now, so it's 50. I feel like it's very California weather, and this is perfect for that. This is a little tiny brand called Carhartt, and putting on this jacket feels like putting on an old baseball mitt. I do want to say, this is the only heavily worn-in thing in this video, so the fabric flows a little bit better, it's a little bit softer. Basically, all these jackets will do the same thing. As they're worn and torn down, you just need to wear them a lot. Carhartt, Levi's, Paynter, Big Yank, everybody had their own thing in the US when they were making chore coats. Carhartt's big thing was just insanely durable stuff. So triple stitch seams, that's signature Carhartt, really oversized fits. Levi's did that too, but obviously they transitioned now to fashion. And then corduroy collar. That's the glowing Carhartt thing. Totally classic Carhartt. Obviously the shades might not match 100%, but this is something not broken in at all. This is something very broken in. But there's a reason why Carhartt advertises their chore coat all the time, 100 years of chore coat, or now it's over 105 years of chore coat. It's just because it's something that's not broken, they don't need to fix it. The longer you wear it, the better it gets. That's what's so great. Paynter jackets. If you are into Paynter, you know what I'm talking about when I say this. It is just so clear that they are fashion industry veterans. It's a 2-person company, husband and wife duo. Everything they do is just top-notch, executed perfectly. Everything is done perfectly. All their stuff, the aesthetic, it all blends. Everything is great. It feels like when you are on Paynter's website or looking at their marketing, it feels like you live in this little perfect cartoon fantasy world where everything is happy and people just go drink coffees and walk around all the time. They're so good at that. They have little notes that are like, there's no care instructions, just take care of yourself. They have a limited edition patch with every drop. They hand number every single one of their jackets. They also use dyed Xoxo nut buttons. Look familiar on the Mammoth, huh? Although I gotta tell you something about those. There are some things you need to know about Paynter jackets. Number 1, all of their sales are done in batches. Like this is apparently a batch 14 jacket, although I can't find anything on their website showing this color or this sizing. They make 800 jackets a quarter. All of the jackets are different, so you won't get another batch 14 like this configuration specifically, and they sell out usually in like 1 minute or less. I think they do pre-sales via email, so you could sign up for that. This blue is very famous. Paynter calls it Bill's blue after Bill Cunningham, a New York Times photographer who just wore a jacket like this day in and day out. But the whole thing is, much like denim, chore coats should fade. Usually the French ones are moleskin and they don't use indigo, they use benzite-based dyes, so they would fade to a really vibrant blue over time, and other manufacturers dye them different color blues, but you toss on your Bill's blue chore coat, you toss on your red beanie, you're in that cartoon. And finally, the king, Mont St Michelle. Definitely the highest quality chore, well, maybe not definitely, but probably the highest quality chore coat we have on this list for a specific reason, which is fascinating. You don't usually see a fabric like this in workwear. And I don't mean moleskin. Mont St Michelle hit the ground running with their advertising. It looks like, you know, they're about to start singing to Belle from Beauty and the Beast. What's interesting is this is fundamentally different than USA-based workwear, which was a big fan of denim and duck canvas. And this is where we can get nerdy, I think, because this was originally, well, not originally called, nicknamed the Breton work jacket. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Based off of Brittany, France. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong as well. This heavyweight moleskin jacket was an icon of this area of France. And I was wondering to myself, why does France and Europe in general like moleskin so much and the US doesn't? We don't really use it that much. We use it in the pockets of the Prologue jacket, which is coming back soon. The key here is Brittany, because at first I looked up online, what's the climate of France? And it was like, France is pretty big, Michael. But if this is nicknamed the Breton work jacket, or Breton, I better check.
Breton.
Either way, that allowed us to narrow it down, and Brittany is typically a temperate, mild climate. Winters don't get too cold. It's very windy and very rainy though. And I was like, oh. This is moleskin, Europe's alternative to denim, essentially. They still use denim, but this is what was more popular. Moleskin is a very tightly woven cotton fabric that is then brushed, napped, shorn, you know, depends. It's fluffy, essentially. Some people even call it peached. Carhartt was Detroit and Levi's is California, but you know, things varied a lot more expansive landscape than just one focused place. So Carhartt and Levi's would line their jackets with different things depending on where the workers were and stuff like that. And denim and canvas were just kind of a great thing to put over as your outer tough layer. But if you live somewhere where the winters are never really gonna get that crazy and you have to worry about wind and rain and that's about it, maybe you layer slightly different as the weather changes, you use a more all-purpose fabric. This is all you need. Brush it, nap it short a little bit, make it a little bit warmer, at least to the touch, a little quicker to warm up into. Boom, that's it. The last big thing about Mont St Michelle that really differentiated them, and it's kind of different now because technology made it easier to produce fabric, nice fabric over time, but Mont St Michelle said, hey, if we're gonna make a coat, we're gonna make it out of the highest quality fabric that we possibly can use. So this is a longer staple combed cotton multi-ply yarn, so it's very nice and should wear for a very long time. That is why the CEO said you could just grab one from the 30s and 40s, toss it on and go back to work. So that really differentiated them as a brand in France during that time. And even now, this is probably the best feeling jacket on the list. It's the heaviest, it feels the burliest, but yeah, I do want to break it in a lot more. And finally, the greatest, in my opinion, modern reinterpretation of the chore coat around, the $700 symbol of the working class, the Drake's Chore Coat. This is one of my favorite chore coats. I love all the chore coats equally. I have now toured manufacturers all over the world, and I'm very familiar with the fact that if you go to a manufacturer, typically they will say, here is where we make a $7,000 sweatshirt, and here is where we make a $50 sweatshirt. I'm really not saying Drake's is doing any of that. I'm not accusing them of anything. What I am actually saying is, knowing all of that, I still put this on and was like, whoa. This is from Drake's. You could just tell a lot of thought went into every single detail about this jacket and the person that would be wearing it, which is probably a Drake's person that would, you know, they would wear a very fancy outfit with it. But my favorite details are such. First thing, sorry, I'm not wearing a lighter pant. I should have, you know, it kind of double deniming here, but right in the open. We have some rapid fire things that we touched on already. All of the pockets are lined. They're also all riveted. Small detail, but nickel button outer, copper interior. I like that. I wish the cuffs were like a Detroit buttoning cuff or something like that. That's my only thing. Nice interior pockets. Selvage denim. But what I really like, there's a few things that stick out right away. We have triple stitching here at the top of the shoulder that ends both at the back of the shoulder and at the front here. I feel like that's a cool way of adding extra durability only where you need it and flexibility and comfort everywhere else. The other cool thing is actually in the same spot. It's this panel right here. Obviously I didn't design this jacket. My name is Michael, not Drake. That's your first clue. But this is actually 2 layers of denim across the shoulder. That gives you a solid amount more durability on this jacket for the long term. I like that. But also, look, there's a little cut right here on the inside of the jacket on that panel. And I love that. I love that detail. Drake's I always associate with just heavy layering, so this could just make it a little bit smoother to toss this jacket over some of their other jackets or shirts or whatever it may be. It could also be a way of shaping the jacket better so it sits on you in a very pleasing Drake's way. And also, finally, a lot of these things are very similar, but you know, slightly different reasons. Finally, this could be a dart gusset type hybrid thing. I don't know the exact construction of it, to give you the most flexibility without having the jacket balloon out and be huge like a Carhartt. And that to me, that's what you pay for with Drake's. Obviously the materials and the construction, everything like that is top notch. Everything is super classy, but those little details that you don't really notice, or when you toss it on, it feels extra good. That's what you pay for with Drake's. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Next week, speaking of, next week is my watch collection, which I think should be fun. But anyways, I just want to thank you really quick for watching these videos. I don't feel like I do thank you enough, and I should, so thank you very much.